troops right this minute fighting in Somalia, for heaven's sake. Is Somalia a security threat to the United States? The answer has to be no. The Sudan, Yemen, we say no, we are going to stop those conflicts. However, by the way, I'm the only one running for president or vice president that's actually served in the military. And I understand it. We need to protect our troops. We need to protect them and give them enough information as well as equipment to be able to equip them well. And if anybody attacks us, I promise you they'll wish they hadn't. But otherwise, we're going to declare peace. Afghanistan, for heaven's sake. I was on an airplane recently. I'm doing a lot of flying now. And there was a full-bird colonel in the Air Force. I started talking with him and said, "Colonel, where are you stationed?" And he told me, I don't remember. And then he said, voluntarily, "Well, at least I'm not in Iraq and I'm not in Afghanistan." I said, "Colonel, tell me. I've never been to Afghanistan. Is what we're doing there working? Should we continue it?" He looked at it, he shook his head and said, "No. It's actually counterproductive for us to have troops there." You have to understand, Afghanistan is tribal. They've never had a strong central system there. They don't want one. They have their tribes. And the tribes do not get along with each other. Now, of course, they have drug lords and everything, too, and that's a separate problem. They lead the world in the opium, the heroin production because of their opium poppy. But they are tribal, and they are very jealous about this. They don't get along with each other whatsoever except under one condition, and that is when a foreigner comes in to try to occupy their country. Guess who that foreigner is today? It doesn't work. Ask Napoleon. Ask the British. Ask the Soviet Union. Ask us. We will bring those troops home now, and that is a part of the 43%. We must do that. Now, there are some bad people there. Al-Qaeda, all the rest. I did believe we should go into Afghanistan, by the way. September 11th, they really did. They themselves didn't attack us, but they condoned it. It came out of Afghanistan. We had every right to go in there. Find Osama bin Laden and these other creeps. But whatever we can do positive, we have now done it. And it's time to leave now. That's part of the 43%. In addition, today, the United States of America has somewhere between 900 and 1,000 military reservations, military bases in foreign countries. We're not isolationists. I'm not. I think that's naive. We don't do that. But unless these bases are necessary for our defense, we're going to close them and bring these troops home. We can no longer afford it. It costs a whole bunch of money. I was reading in a magazine not long ago that a woman who lives in a small town in Germany next to a U.S. Army base was hearing that maybe we might consider closing the base and was horrified. If you were to do that, we would lose 92% of the revenue for our village, she said. And you know something? She's probably right. But wouldn't it be better to spend that money back in Virginia or Rhode Island or Missouri or wherever else? We can't afford it. Let's stop nation building halfway around the world and start nation building in our country. Our bridges are in trouble, our pipelines, our schools, etc. Let's spend the money here. That's part of the 43%. Let me talk to you then about education. I believe that many schools around our country are failing our children. I anticipate you agree with me. Many schools are doing great, and that's terrific. But many schools are failing our children. What do we do? The shoes on your feet. Where's he going with this? The shoes on your feet are consumer items. You basically decide where you want to go, what type of shoes you want to buy, what style, what color, and basically how much you want to spend, and you're pretty much satisfied with your choice. That basically is purchased from the ground up. It's the consumers deciding what they want to buy and how much they want to spend. And pretty much that's the way all things are purchased. It's a supply and demand competitive thing, and it works. Education is completely different. Education is funded from the top down. It's the federal government. By the way, the Department of Education's budget is about $60 billion every year. That's a lot of money. They have 4,600 employees. Lots of administration, lots of regulations, lots of throttling of all kinds of things. And part of that money then is spent. A lot of it is kept for themselves in administrative costs and given to the states. They keep a bunch for administrative purposes and give it to the school district. They keep a bunch of it and give it to the schools. Now, we all know that a lot of schools are top-heavy with administration, so they keep a bunch as well. And by the way, the better teachers are not dumb. The better teachers understand that there's more money in administration, so regretfully in most schools, the better teachers actually gravitate out of teaching and go into administration, which is also a problem. We say, I'm going to ask you a question. You. Who is in a better position to decide where and how your children should be educated? You as the parents or the federal government?
I would definitely say me as a parent.
That is not a hard question to answer. The parents are in a far better position to answer that question. What am I doing? Okay. When I get rolling, my mic dips. Okay. Trying to swear. I don't know what. Okay. So let's allow the parents, is it better? Yeah. Let's allow the parents to decide where and how their education dollar is going to be spent. Now, they're not going to have the money itself, but kind of like the VA benefits. They can choose where that, you can call it a scholarship, you can call it a voucher, I don't care what you call it. Let the parents decide where and how their children should be educated. Now, I am a school, and I don't care. I'm a public school, private school, military school, religious school. I am a school, and I'm not doing a good job. I am failing my students. What's going to happen? The parents may come to me and say, come on, Greg, get it together. It isn't working, and if you don't, I'm going to take my children elsewhere. So thank you, and if I get better, that'll be good, and that's a good thing. If I don't, what's going to happen? My customers are going to start to leave. They're going to go to the neighboring school, which is doing a better job. Again, public, private, doesn't matter. Whatever it is terrific. What am I going to do then? Whoa, I'm seeing my customers are leaving. I'll either get better, what's he doing that I'm not doing? And I'll get better, or I'll go out of business, to which I say, good. Somebody else will come in and buy my facility or take over somewhere else, and they will get better results. It's called competition. It's called competition. We will regain innovation in our school districts. We will regain excellence in our school districts. It's happening today in Milwaukee. It's happening today in New Orleans, and it's working. I was just in Milwaukee about a week and a half ago. Seems like a lot longer. And I was talking with the people, and they say, you know, Judge Gray, most of the bad schools in Milwaukee are now gone. Why? Competition will result in excellence, because the parents will demand it. And not everybody needs to have a PhD in psychiatry, for heaven's sake, or whatever. Some people might want to be an aircraft mechanic. Some people might want to be involved in the performing arts, or a mathematician, or whatever. You will find innovation again. And the good teachers will thrive on this. Why? Number one, they'll be able to teach without all of this regulation stuff. This No Child Left Behind, which is a boggle of regulations. Trying to get the teachers now to teach to the test. I'm not interested in tests. I'm interested in education. So should you be. Your tests will be great. Your grades will be fine to get you your first job. But after that, they'll almost be irrelevant. But your education will be there forever. Learn. Get a good education. And stop all of this nonsense about regulations and teaching for the test and everything else. The parents will demand an education. They will demand excellence. It will work. So, part of my 43% is the federal government has no business in education whatsoever, I believe. We'll look at it, we'll conduct an audit and see how we're doing and everything else. But I think that the Department of Education should be seriously reduced in size. That's going to be a lot. That's going to be more than 43% reduced. It'll be 80, 90, maybe even 100. I don't know. There are other agencies, the Department of Energy. Yes, question, go ahead. No, not at all. And thank you for, if I was raising any form of doubt on that, the answer is absolutely not. But the parents will be able to choose where that money is going to be spent. You have a good public school, terrific. They'll choose to have their voucher used to pay for their student there. And the schools will probably be in good shape. They'll have a leg up in order to be able to do this. It's terrific. But I don't care what public school, private, military, whatever, if it's failing, I don't want them to stay in business. And in Milwaukee, most of the schools are public schools. They're just getting better. The teachers are happy. Why? Because again, they can teach. And they're in demand. So if I have a good teacher at my school and you can woo them away with more money, they'll go there. Good. Terrific. Good teachers will win. Poor teachers will not. That doesn't bother me. Or a lot of teachers are beat up. You know, I'm not picking on teachers, but you know, if you get paid the same if you're lazy and you don't do anything, or if you really do perform, eventually, you know, people get beat up and they stop putting out. Competition will bring excellence back to the teachers, to the schools, to the kids. Sir?
What do you do about a poor area where there's only one school and there's not a lot of funding for the school because it's in a poor area, but there's not really a lot of choice for the parents who send their
Good for you. First of all, I don't think there are any locations where there's only one school, because if there, but maybe there are. Those schools will get better too. You know, the competition will work for them. And if literally, if you have it's an island here, and there are, I don't know, 1,500 people in this community, there's only one school, and that's what you're posing to me. If the school isn't working, what's going to happen? Somebody else will come in from out of town to start a new school. If the money is there, just like I was holding, remember the $50 bill standing on the side and anybody's going to supply it for drugs? It's the same thing. If I'm holding up a voucher worth $8,000 saying, I want somebody to teach my children well, I assure you somebody will fill that need. So we'll get in a new school. And then what's going to happen to this one school? They'll get better, they'll go out of business, and other new schools will come in. Public, private, I don't care. Fair enough? Competition works, yes.
In a huge percentage of the failing schools, and disproportionately so in schools that are the worst, parents are not intelligent consumers of education. So they won't know that their kids are even getting a bad education or to go other places, and this is 3 years out of teaching in failing schools.
Good for you. And that's a question. It's basically saying, come on, Ray, get real. He's nicer than that, but that's what he's saying. He's saying, you know, there are a lot of parents out there that just don't value education, that aren't going to look at it, and they're not going to care. I disagree. I agree fully that there are such parents. I think there are a lot fewer than you think, but they certainly do exist. And I've seen circumstances in poor areas, down and out, I don't care, barrios, whatever you're going to call them, when they put in a good school, a gate school, whatever, we have many parents camping out all weekend so that they can be first in line to get their children there. But that's true, there are some that don't. So I don't care. I'm a parent, and I have 3 children, and I don't care. But I'm living next door to you, and you do care. You're a parent. And my children play with your children. So you decide, this school isn't performing, I'm going to take my child 3 blocks farther away, and they're going to go there. My children are going to say, wait a minute, you know, my playmates are going off to there. There'll be a coattail effect, and they will go too. It doesn't take that many before the results start coming in. That's what they've seen again in Milwaukee. It's working. It's just working. Sure. Yes.
Where will the money for the vouchers come from? Will that be from the federal government?
Yes. Whatever the funding is today, a lot of it's federal government, some is state government, some is local. Whatever it is, we're not changing it. So the money will be the same. The vouchers will be there, and they can be used. The parents won't have the money, they'll just say where it is used. And a lot of the public schools will thrive, and that's great. Yes?
I have a question about these people who are going to come in and build new schools after the old one fails.
Yes.
Like if there are 2 schools in the community, and one's bad, one's good, there's not going to be space in a good school for all the students from that school to transfer, I assume. Unless you're going to expand it somehow. So,
Okay, so, go
if
ahead.
you want to make space in the community for everyone to go to school, and you said someone else will come along and where the money's at, and build a new school.
Yes.
But how is there profit in that? If the vouchers you're giving these people are for a public education, they're not $30,000 a year for a private school, how is someone going to come in, build a school and still make a profit? What's the motive for that?
Okay, the question is basically an economics one. That if you have a poor school, we'll go back to you. We have a poor school and then a small community and everything.
Try to use your jacket.
And don't breathe. Okay. So you have this one area, 1,500 people or whatever. You have one junior high school and it's not performing. What are you going to do? And then he says, well, come on, where's the money going to come from? How are they going to take these vouchers for $8,000 a year or whatever, and how are they going to form a school? It's called a business loan. You know, if it comes in and this school is making money, you can come in, you can get a business. First of all, I would love it if you would simply buy his school and he'd be out of business and you'd take over. One way or the other, it's amazing what competition can do, and the free market will actually work on this. So I would come in, I would rent a building, I would get a business loan if I had to, and I'd start hiring good teachers. I'd hire a lot of good teachers from this poor school, and they'd come in droves. It will work. Okay? Business loans do wonders. Fair enough? Yes?
How would you protect children from their parents? Like, let's say, for example, you have a set of parents that are religious fundamentalists and don't believe in science, let's say. So go choose a school, and they supposedly have the right to in this program, to have their kids kind of indoctrinated in their own way of thinking. Now, we don't let you kill your kids, we don't let you maim your kids because they have rights, and the government protects those. How does the government protect the rights of children to have an education that is valuable and meaningful?
Valuable according to whom? I am not, I take very seriously, you know more than he does with his children. That's a real difficult area to get into. I am going to have standards. The government does have a place to perform in this. They're going to make sure that you do teach arithmetic and English and the language and all that sort of stuff. But otherwise, I don't accept your premise. I agree that there's some parents that don't care. I'm not going to get into the religious thing where people don't want blood transfusions and all the rest of that sort of stuff. That's a hard area, and I don't have a magic wand, and there's some real problems with that and stuff. But as far as you're saying, oh, I want them to get a really good education according to me instead of according to the parents, I'm going to start having problems with that. Because that's a value judgment that I really think that the parents should be able to do, unless it's really clear that, you know, I'm going to the high school of Jim Beam or something, and you know, that's different. But otherwise, I kind of question that issue. Yes?
Do you think that over time it can create some problems though? Like, let's say like the school could like monopolize a little bit, and that like one school
The school could what?
like just become more like of a monopoly, in that like you get that one school may have better teachers than some other schools, so parents are gonna want to send their kids there.
Great!
But then you can't like have an overcrowded school, right? But then
No.
you don't want to go to another school.
An overcrowded school is not a good school, by definition.
So how do you like,
If it's enough, it's enough. But if this school is thriving, maybe that director has a sister she can put in a school next door. Okay? You know, if they can't, you know, I'm not going to make schools take more children than they want. But I assure you that if this school, what's your first name? Anna. It's the Anna School, and it's great. Somebody else is going to duplicate it. And if they're overflowing and they're all coming into this area, they'll put one in 2 blocks away. That's why it works. Okay? Yes, it's exciting. I'm going to change the subject on it. I'm going to talk about jobs. You have every right to be concerned about the job market. It's on everybody's mind as well it should be. And I'm not going to get too political, but I'm going to be realistic. And what's happening today is not working. And I don't believe that our current administration or the challenger and Romney or Obama or anybody else, they're nibbling at the edges. They don't have a clue. We need an institutional change to address this serious attack upon our economy, upon our people, and upon your future. So instead of talking about, oh, I'll give a tax break here, I'll take a tax break away there, I'll charge higher taxes or lower taxes, etc., that isn't going to do it at all. What are we going to do? Because we do have a plan. And the plan is that we're going to repeal the income tax. Now, it is not a sound bite. It's going to take me a little while to go through this. It will work. First of all, we would replace it with a retail consumption tax. And I'll explain that, we'll go back to that later. The income tax today, first of all, the General Accountability Office estimates that we as individuals and as businesses spend somewhere in the order of $260 to $600 billion every year to keep tax records and to have our income taxes prepared. That is money that we would save. Before you can talk about your taxes, that's money that you can keep in your pocket. That's good, it'll stimulate the economy, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's just parenthetical. The issue is jobs. Today, our products, agricultural products, manufactured products, they're right here, we can look at them. And if we're going to export them, for example, before they leave our shores, they have paid taxes on them. So that means they are artificially higher in price, competing with other goods around the world that have not paid taxes on them. So we have a competitive disadvantage. Okay? With me so far. Same thing is true in reverse. We have goods from around the world that are coming into our country that have not paid taxes on them. I don't know, from Singapore, Japan, Brazil, wherever. Competing with our domestic goods that have paid taxes on them. So we have a competitive disadvantage, and then everybody pays the same sales tax. It is really harming our domestic products. If we were to repeal the income tax, it would level the playing field. We would have the same goods here paying the same consumption tax, and our goods would be more competitive. I was on another airplane not too long ago, and I was discussing this with a guy who is an executive from Nike, you know, the shoe manufacturer. And he looked at me and his eyes literally got wide. And he said, Judge Gray, this is sensational. If we were to repeal the income tax, most companies would bring their manufacturing back to the United States of America. That's called millions of jobs. It's a reverse outsourcing. Now, you cannot pass laws to keep companies from protecting themselves and outsourcing, etc. And a lot of our companies really want to be domestic and want to be patriotic, but when it comes down to it, you can't pass laws to keep it from happening. But if we were to make this institutional change, it would make our goods so much more competitive. We would bring millions of jobs back to the United States. I'm not going to take questions until I go through this, and then I'll talk about it again. I will ask a question. So, what are we going to do? We're going to have a retail consumption tax. How much is it going to be? I don't know. Honestly, my estimates are somewhere maybe between 8 and 12%. But say it's going to be more. Say it's going to be 20% on all goods and services. This is a major change, folks. This is an institutional change, and we need to look at it. So, the first thing you look at is, number one, you as working people, you get a payroll check, right? Under this new system, all of the money you get will stay in your pocket. There won't be any withholdings for income tax, federal income tax, or Social Security. That will all come to be paid for the retail sales tax, retail consumption tax. So you're going to have a lot more money in your pocket. Number two, you can go out in a vending machine out here somewhere and find a Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola or a something. Maybe a water would be more, less, never mind. And it costs $1, okay? Of that dollar, about 15 to 20 cents is actually taxes that are paid to the companies, it pays to the individuals, etc. So that the competition would bring that price down to, say, 80 to 85 cents. And then, yes, you would have a consumption tax on top. You're going to still end up paying about the same dollar that you paid before. So that'll be pretty much neutral. So we will be able to keep this revenue neutral and be able to do that. Let me tell you a secret. People that have money pay more money for goods and services than people that don't, so they will pay a higher amount of tax. But, and I hope it's going through all of your minds right this minute, because it's certainly going through mine. What about the poor? It's regressive. It isn't right for the poor. But we have a response to that too. And that is that everybody in the country, Bill Gates on down, will receive, I don't know, a rebate, a credit, a prebate, whatever you're going to call it, of let's say $200 every month. That means that anybody that spends $1,000 a month on goods and services will end up paying no taxes. It'll be a wash. Anybody actually that's really poor and pays less than that will actually make money on the deal, so they're going to be ahead. And then, of course, for every dollar you spend over $1,000 a month, you'll pay that tax. What would happen? First of all, we will be able to eliminate the Internal Revenue Service. Not a bad thing. Imagine the amount of bureaucracy, administration, and fraud that goes into the system. How many of you people think that the income tax as we have it today is workable, fair, and equitable? No, we will be able to do away with that. We'll be able to bring in these jobs. We will be fair to the poor. We will be able to put in something. Most states already have sales taxes, so the machinery is already in place with regard to this tax as well. Imagine, just contemplate, being able to make personal decisions for personal reasons instead of tax reasons. You know, if you want to sell your house, you talk to your parents, they want to sell their house and they want to move down or something like that because your guys are gone and they want a smaller. Well, I don't want to cut the grass anymore, whatever. A lot of them won't do it because they have to pay a lot of capital gains taxes. So you'll be able to make personal decisions for personal reasons instead of tax reasons. You'll be able to make business decisions for business reasons instead of tax reasons. It really is exciting. There's a major thing that we should do because we've made our lives so complex in this world. There's a difference between simplification and simplistic. This is simplifying our lives without being simplistic. And it's a really exciting thing to do. There are 4 groups of people that I know of, at least that I can come up with, that are not in favor of this. Who might they be? Well, first of all, I think we'd all agree. Tax accountants, tax attorneys. H&R Block does not like this idea. Okay, I think we can live with that. Second group of people actually are the people who work for the IRS. Okay, I think we can understand and work with that as well. But the third group is huge and very powerful, and that is members of Congress. Why? Because members of Congress today get enormous political benefits by voting for tax breaks for their wealthy constituents, and they're not going to want to give it up. But when we win this election, we're going to get such a mandate, so much attention, we'll be able to go over the heads of these members of Congress. And if you have a member of Congress that's not voting in favor of repealing the 16th Amendment, which is income taxes, and installing this consumption tax, you're going to actually know that they're putting their selfish interest ahead of our interest, and you're going to have to talk to them. We will get this done. It's exciting. The fourth group of people are the wealthy constituents, the ones that have mastered the system, the ones that are not paying their taxes. Think General Electric if you want to. That's a graphic example, but there are lots. And today, it's estimated about 30% of the transactions that go into the financial transactions that take place countrywide are actually under the table. You know, they pay cash and they don't report it and all the rest of this sort of stuff. A lot of those will then actually be on top of the table, and it will be a lot more equitable for everybody. We will do this. We will bring back those jobs, and nobody else will be able to manage it. So these are things that we believe in. I've talked to you about what? Our economy, critically important. Biggest security threat to the United States of America is our economy. Weak economy, remember ancient Rome and the rest. I've talked to you about jobs. We can do this. They don't have a clue. We do. And I've talked to you about education. I've also talked to you about drug policy. There are other things as well. We have a little bit of time. I guess, I don't know when we're supposed to be up. I did have a question on this one. Yes?
Yeah, so if you take away the income tax for companies, what's to say they won't spend that saved money on bonuses for executives and other irresponsible ways of spending it rather than, you know, bringing jobs back? What makes you, you know, certain that all companies will have a good conscience?
Okay, I'm going to question your wording because I can't say I'm certain about anything. I don't have a magic wand. I'm doing the best I can. I'm convinced of this, and we will work on it together. By the way, with regard to the consumption tax or whatever you're going to call it, let's first of all agree to repeal the income tax, and we'll all have, this is a major decision to make about what kind of tax to replace it with. I love the idea of abolishing the IRS. You put in a flat tax instead. That has some positives and negatives. We'll talk about it amongst ourselves. We'll debate it, and we'll come up with something that works the best. But, you know, if you say, what are they going to do? They're going to give bonuses, and that is a problem, and you grapple with that. But eventually, people are not going to put money under their mattress. They are going to spend it. And if they go out, they get these bonuses like they're talking about, and then I'm going to buy a big yacht. Well, if I do that, you know, I'm going to pay my 20% or whatever it is on that. So they are going to create jobs.